So new handlebars day. And I picked these for a couple of reasons. I really like the idea of a swept back bar like this, but not too extreme. The ones I have on there now that I showed you in the last video, they were a little more extreme. And while I liked them, I also thought maybe it was a little too much, especially for a bike that you plan to do some technical riding. So I thought maybe I'd give these bars a try and make a compromise between very, very swept back and slightly swept back. The first alt bar I used was this one actually. And this is a pretty, it's a pretty steep angled alt bar. And I ended up using this for a couple of rides and then decided it was a little bit too narrow. So in comparison, so it's hard to tell from the camera, but I have another bar here to give you an example of how narrow this is. So this bar, this is a flat bar that I was using on my other hardtail mountain bike, the one that precedes this one, the one that this one replaces. And I cut this down. This was a 750 originally, and I cut it down, I think it's a 680 now. And this bar, as you can see, you know, if we set them up near each other, you can see that the width of these is similar. So not exactly as wide, but pretty close. And I found that this just felt really, really narrow to me, even though this one feels good. So I ordered a new bar. I got the SimWorks, what's it called? The Get Around bar by SimWorks. And it comes with a 750 millimeter width. And I have not cut it down at all. And in fact, I'm gonna leave it that wide for a while and see how it goes. But so far I can say that I like the extra width with that shape. With this shape, or more of a straight bar, I find that width would probably feel too wide. And the reason I think that is because when you're riding with a bar like this, your wrists and arms are in alignment. When you're riding with a bar like this, my wrists force me to put my elbows out, and I tend to ride, I have to ride more like this. Whereas with these alt bars, I ride more like this, so I can get away with having that wider bar. So that's interesting. I didn't know that until doing this experiment, because I've never used a bar like this before. And then I'll set them like that so we can get kind of an overview shot. And then you can see how they have a flare up, a rise, I guess. And the official weigh-in, so I think they have a claimed weight of 300 grams, so they're not the lightest bars. Ooh, there we go. So here's the current bars, and you can see the angle, and you can see how much they come forward. And they're pretty good. They're narrow. They're not too narrow, but they are narrow. All right, so let's look at the new bars, Miss Cools. On here. Much, much wider, right? Much wider. And a completely different angle. And these don't go forward as much as these do. This is steeper, this is more gradual. The finish is different. This is a softer looking silver color. This is a really polished silver. So if I set them, go ahead and hold these right here. So if you look at the bars now, get a better idea of what the differences are. You know, you've got a lot more width here. Much, much wider. And not as angled back. But with these grips being flared, I still think it's going to be a pretty comfortable position, and I can always adjust the stem if I need to go shorter, if I want shorter reach. This is a 90 millimeter stem, and we made this bike actually to have a long front center. I'll step back and get that shot. So this bike has a pretty long front center on it, which was designed for a shorter stem. So those are the traditional Nitto 20, I think these have a 20 millimeter rise, maybe 20 or 30, I can't remember. But you can kind of see they have a slight back sweep, but not much. And I cut them way short, so I can cut these down. These bars are a little bit heavier than those. I find these ones are actually really light. Really light. These ones are a little bit heavier. And actually, that's what I wanted to talk also about is I have not really been a big fan of flat bars over the years. I favor drop bars because I like the different positions that they offer. And I've ridden flat bars on a lot of long rides, and I find they are very uncomfortable for me after a long ride. My wrists start to hurt. I feel like I'm searching for a different position the whole time. I can just never really get comfortable and enjoy it. I start to hate being on the bike. Whereas today, riding this one, I found that that kind of relaxed angle allowed my shoulders to drop down. I could sit up a little bit better, and I could just enjoy just spinning down the road. And I could move my hands. I could kind of sweep my hands up on those bars into different spots, and I felt pretty comfortable. So we'll see. I'm not completely sold yet on flat bars or alt bars, if that's what they're called, but I'm more sold on them now than I am on this type of bar. I don't foresee myself wanting to use a bar like this. Even if I were to go do a cross-country bike race, I really don't think I would run something like this now. That to me is just way more comfortable. It allows my shoulder, like I said, it just allows my shoulders to relax. When you're descending, you're just more comfortable. So I don't see any need now to go back to this type of thing anytime soon. Now, the other thing about this bike that I discovered, I've been running a 29er bike. That was my mountain bike before this. And this bike has the smaller wheels. And when we built this bike and we designed it, and I worked with John to come up with this design, he suggested 27.5. And I was a little apprehensive. I kind of wanted to stick to 29 because that's what I had on my other mountain bike. And I just kind of, even though I've ridden a bunch of 27, I have a bunch of 27.5 bikes that are rigid bikes, gravel bikes, dirt touring bikes, rando bikes. Even though I've ridden a bunch of those bikes with those wheel size, for some reason, I was still believing in the idea that I would be trading in something or getting a big trade-off to have this wheel size. So I was a little apprehensive. But John convinced me to do it, and so I did, figuring, well, if it doesn't work out, I guess we could just make another bike frame, right? It's just a bike frame. We can build another one. Although I bought this fork and I invested in it, so it would have cost me a lot to buy another fork and all that. So it was a little bit of a risk, let's just say that. But now that I'm riding this wheel size, after coming off of a 29er, this wheel size, I don't feel like I've lost anything. I really don't. In fact, I feel I've gained a little bit by going to a smaller wheel. What I've noticed is that in tight switchbacks, I can just take those as tight as I want. The bike just goes through those corners. I mean, literally the bar will sweep between my knee and I can turn it like this and just bring that front wheel and almost literally pivot on the back wheel around a hairpin turn. I've never been able to do that comfortably on my 29er mountain bike. I've never been able to do that. I can do those switchbacks, but I'm always feeling like I have to really balance it as I'm doing it. Whereas with this bike, it's almost like it just swings around your back wheel. It just spins around and goes through it. And I've been doing it on the pavement to make sure that I'm not just imagining something or just some placebo. I've been trying it in all different places, on a sloped pavement, on sloped gravel, and it just turns. It's turning way, way better than my other bike. What do you think of the wider bars? Do I need to tilt them down a little bit?
Oh, down so that these come down more?
Yeah, do they feel like they're angled up too much?
I didn't think so.
How does the extra width feel?
I like the extra width.
You do?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't cut them any shorter?
It's hard to, like, I like them because I really like the extra leverage. I like how much balance it gives you. But for a long, then it's like, I don't know how comfortable that would be on a long ride. But immediately I like how much balance you feel like you have, like you're not falling over.
No, you don't have any balance issues.
So yeah, I really like them immediately for that reason. But for, I don't know how it would feel on a long ride. Like you've ridden flat bars on a long ride. I haven't.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Maybe with some bar ends or something, inner bar ends, to kind of bring in an internal, maybe do some internal bar ends right here.
Yeah.
That way you have the leverage when you need it, and then you have a comfortable.
Do you get tired of your arm
They might be a
now?
little wide. Let me try it again.
Yeah.
The steering feels really natural now with the wider bar. Like it just has a really nice, comfortable. Yeah, I could really see myself doing some tight switchbacks on this, no problem. You can literally steer it like that. That's crazy. Yeah, I gotta go ride it in the mountains to see. So that I'm really ecstatic about, because I just have not had a bike that can do that type of turning on really tight switchbacks before. So stoic. Were you contemplating riding through? So anyway, so I talked about the new bars. Those are the SimWorks get around bars, kind of wide swept back bars, really nice. I talked about the 27.5 wheel and why I think it still is I think it's a great wheel, and not just still. I mean, it's a relatively new wheel size for most mountain bikes. So anyway, I'm gonna ramble on. I mean, I'm gonna keep talking, so I'm gonna cut it off there. Hopefully I put a bunch of B-roll over all of me talking, so you guys didn't have to listen to me babble into the camera. But if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer those if I can. Yeah, so anyway, here it is, one of a kind, 27.5 hardtail bike packing machine for single track trails. Thanks for watching.